Welcome,
How
everyone.
y'all doing today?
All right. We're doing good. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Sorry to interrupt your flow.
It's all right.
Yeah,
Good to
I
hear.
thought, shall I or shall I not? I thought, yeah, why not? You know? So, yeah, glad everybody okay. I'm gonna sit back, get my popcorn out, and be talk.
Wonderful. Right.
What I do? Well, not what I do, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. All
I'm
right.
gonna come up before I say something silly even more. All right, cool. How's that?
Well, welcome,
How's that?
everybody. And I'm happy to see everybody's personality. We're real people, you know? So, so everybody's welcome as we saw, right? And everybody feel free to be a so. So we have the racial deception scroll. That's our scroll for today. All right. So before we get into our reading, we're just going to do a breathing exercise because when we're breathing properly, that makes us digest our scroll so much better. All right. Because everything is working. All right. Charged up. All right. So let's start by doing that. Let's start by standing up. All right. And you're going to just acknowledge your anatomy. All right. And so everything can function. As you remember, saman, meaning complete union breath. All right. So you don't want to ignore your physical part of your anatomy. All right. Because you have your mental side. And then we know that that is all taking place right now through our gateway. All right. From our etherical reality to our physical reality, right through our breath. All right. So we charge up with our sakhem, known as the life force, also called the prana, also called the chi, all right, from other races. All right, they're talking about that life force that's permeating through all living entities. And it's most abundant in the air, all right, or very abundant in the air. All right. If you could breathe next to a waterfall, even better. All right. You're charging up and you absorb that life force in. But before you can absorb that life force in, all right, that sakam, that power, all right, how you sitting, how you standing, all right, and then you're going to see, are you able to breathe in a complete union breath, using your full potential of your lungs, all right, knowing that we have our diaphragm, which is a large muscle that separates our rib cavity from the below it, all right, and all the organs that's underneath. So when we breathe properly, the diaphragm actually puts a little pressure on these organs, giving a nice massage. All right. So we work out our muscles. That's how you can work out your inner organs, just by breathing properly and stimulate all of that. All right. You use the bathroom so much better. Everything you think so much better. You process information. All right. Your very hormones. All right. Your information centers. All right. So you let your stomach relax. So you let your stomach relax when you breathe in, so that your breath can be pulled all the way down using your diaphragm. If you're holding in your stomach, you're impeding on the movement of the diaphragm. All right. So you feel your stomach go out. You feel it expand outwards because the diaphragm acts like a vacuum. So it goes down and then the air starts to go out, expand us out. And we keep inhaling. And then the air is pulled to the higher parts of our lungs. All right. So now we've used all parts of our lungs. All right. Then you hold the breath for a moment and you exhale. All right. So let's do a few breaths like that. And you feel your if you feel your posture straighten up, because if you're slouching or you're leaning in any type of way, you'll realize you can't really you can't breathe properly when you're slouching. All right. And so you're going to feel your body just align you up. All right. So feel supported from Panadaru. All right. Your overseers, our overseers. The Darunun are the very forces of natural nature. All right. So you're feeling yourself be supported by Paa Taraq and accept this support, the love I shook, accept the healing as you breathe in. And then when you exhale, you breathe out that same love, support, and healing to each other, all right? To your fellow brothers and sisters, as you want for your brothers and sisters, what you want for yourself, all right? And now you are poets, you have joined poets. So, as all the components of natural nature, and you, one of the very, one of the many components of natural nature as poets, all right? And you feel yourself make peace with yourself in all your dimensions, your emotional body. You feel yourself centering back, whatever you're emotionally feeling. It's going to be all right, all right? Your thoughts, your mental. Where are you mentally? All right, what's going on? What's on your mind? Feel it come into the present. Now you're in the company of your fellow brothers and sisters in the here and now, all right? In this divine circle, all right? What's your body doing? Where's the tension? Feel that part of your body just relax into the whole and feel the support of the rest of your body for whatever's out of tune, all right? Now feel everything tuning up. And then also link whatever you're feeling physically, what are you also feeling, all right, emotionally? So that is the samadhi, all right, complete union. You're in complete union with yourself. You feel the unconditional ashuk, all right, the divine love for yourself. And now you feel at peace with yourself, all right? And now you can be at peace with all that's around you, all right? It starts in palates, and notice that doorway is inward. So now you can say, Abta Paa Taraq la ye rawuk Yaanun. Abta Paa Baabaa la yehu. Open the way to the soul of Yaanun. Open the door towards him. Rawuk, soul, being the spark of life, all right? Rawuk, spark of life, breath of life, soul. Open the way to the soul of Yaanun. Open the door towards him. Notice that doorway and that bridge to salvation. Notice that doorway is inward. So now you're tapping into who you are, all right? Open the door towards him, who you are, all right? Not what you have become, all right? Through your various cycles and what you had to become, all right? As you interface with these different conditions, all right? We have our conditional existence, which we respect, and then we go back behind to our unconditional existence, all right? So who were you before all those things happened, all right? And now you're tapped in, all right? So that's our smile breath. So now you know that breathing itself is a prayer, all right? And you get into the rhythm of breath. Now you're back into the rhythm of Paa Taraq, natural nature, all right? And we're going to take a moment to acknowledge our master teacher, because everything that I shared, I read it in the scroll, the breath book, and some other scrolls as well. And also through life and confirmation and living life, all right? So we're going to acknowledge our master teacher who brings us together as our Zeti, all right? Our nucleus, all right? For the purpose of renewing our story, our one collective story as one people, all right? In divine unity. And as we acknowledge our master teacher, that means I'm automatically acknowledging myself, all right? As our teacher is a living and breathing flesh and blood like me, an example of Ashuk and everything that we can be. And Paa Taraq has incarnated because it's our time to renew our story, all right? And that's our story, our story. And as I acknowledge myself, that means I'm acknowledging you. And that's why I say Abdul Kalau, Sapalorat, Wufa Kor, Bisamos Papaut. Begin all prayers and thinking by using the all expanding. We see that the breath itself is called smile, complete union. So now your breath itself is the all expanding. So use your thing of opening, your mitzvah. All right. As we see it, we have that marking right above our nose. All right. And as we breathe deeper, we open more consciousness because we're all charged up. All right. Baror, baror, baror. Nabab nadar mudar. Naut mudar bedet patah. Naut muklas bedet yanun. Holy, holy, holy. As in one whole story, the holy seed, all existing gases, all of our dimensions. Holy, holy, holy. Master, Overseer, Almighty. Hawat. Almighty. Now, what's Mugad Badet Patah? No God except Patah. It is Ashuk that is the key, but it is you that opens the door. Because you take responsibility to respond as a natural nature, as a child of natural nature. It's our responsibility to respond, all right? As a Mukta, one who opens. So there's no God except Patah. Are you responsible? A God is one who is running towards responsibility. No Savior except Yanun, because we cannot lie to ourselves, the very soul of the people. Notice that door is inward. We cannot lie to ourselves. Paa Taraq. Anuki Jaweth Pa Ashuk and Pa Pahut. Mukalal Ashuk Kawun Jaweth Naya. Anuki Kasamun and Pa Pahut. Wu Pa Pahut Kawun Kasamun and Naya. Anuki Wahu Ame Pa Pahut. Mu Pa Pahut Kawun Wahu Ame Naya. Nakuk Kado Naja Ame Kasam and Pa Pahut. Wu Khabub Ame Mushkas Nakuk Kado Kawan Kala Pafef Nakuk Ayo Jawef Pa Pahut. Amen wase amen ayani kawun lake bakor jawef Pa Pahut. Anuki abed biye nafashni Pa Pahut kawun. Anuki Pa Pahut kador nakok kador. Pa Pahut amor nakok amor. I am responsible. The very forces of natural nature, Tawakum Natarunun, for not forgetting us. Tawakum for sending us our master teacher, and we accept our teacher, Baabaa Yaanun. We accept this healing. We accept you. The same way that we ask for acceptance, we are accepting of you. And we acknowledge that this scroll that we're going to read today is the truth and the way. Panin mispa kawun, pa sawabu pa taruk, ze kawuna na zulalahe amskun, manebas patu masaa, ama hade amumudamau, manebus lafukum, unataru. Arjulaye nafashukum. Afukshane kawunkum. Paa Sawabu Paa Taraq, Paa Hadeamu Paa Damal. Nahun Tawuans Kum, Lahe Panen Damal Shafe. Nahun Tawuans Kum, Lahetem Nasoinun. Nahun Tawuans Kum, Lahe Ashakuma. Ans kuma ter muslafunu. Nahun ater mukrarukum. Nahun talub nasar kuma. Nahun talub nasar kuma. Ansanun kahena taru. Ansanun muslafunun. Nahun ater muspatu. Anun atun atun amu. We are Sabians. Tawakum nataru, wumuntaru. Tawatak muntar, Baabaa Yaanun, in the personage of His Excellency, Dr. Malachi York, or Khan. Tawatak for bringing us together. And Tawakum Moisad, as we are doing our very best to transform into the very, very best versions of ourselves and our one collective body. And let us take a moment also to send appreciation and thank our Muslafu ancestors for supporting us thus far, because we're here. All right. And this is our scroll for today. All right. Paa Taraq, racial deception. All right. Paa Taraq. All right. Usually they have the numbers, but I don't see the number. All right. And it says sent down for you Nuwapians. All right. And we see our seal. All right. This will be a Rashtat, and this will be Neptet. All right. On the Babtet. And you just take a moment and look. We have our beetle. All right. As you know, the story of rebirth. And what else is there? And our documents, and you see our insects, all right, which are very sacred to us, the mosquito, and we see our Sabbat, all right, our star, all right, because the insects, it was the insects that has protected Africa, all right, that's why it's very sacred to us, all right. So we have 4 different ones. So take time to just look at the picture because it tells a story. United Nation Wapian, all right, and we have our life after life, all right, life after life, our double ankh, double resurrection, mental and spiritual, all right. So a little bit about the author is Baabaa Yaanun, Baabaa Yaanun, the master teacher, His Excellency Malachi York Okran. Kabina means born on Tuesday, June 26, 1945 AD in Ghana, Africa. Those are Baba's coordinates. And here Baba sits as the transmitter, one of his many hats, the very forces of Panadaru. All right. And let's read our scroll. Feel free, everybody, to unmute and participate as we're reading, too, if you have anything to say along the way. All right. The revelation to the Nawapians, Paa Taraq, the way. Salalil Tashash or Takshash, that means racial deception. 1. What is a Salal race? A race is a group characterized by one genetic trait unique to one specific group of people. 2. The first race on this Kawak Taha planet Earth may have been found to be Nagaru Negroids. That is a fact, confirmed, and hakak, actual fact. 3. How many Salalu races are there these days? 4. Hasmuni. How many Salalu races are there these days? 4. There will always be only 3 originals or root races. However, one of them is on their way to extinction, which is why they have to mix in every 300 years, because they naturally have recessive genes. 5. When it is time for a race of people to go, it is time for them to go. 6. The very first from whom other 2 were Ladud born is the Nagaru Salal, the Negroid race. 7. Some traits of this race are thick skin, full lips, melanin-rich skin, a full heel at the back of the foot, and a curved jawbone and large eyes. All right. So remember, we're talking about the root of the race. You know, many of us may look different nowadays because we're obviously mixed with some other of the other races. All right. So we're going to the root. All right. So that's a full heel back. All right. So someone whose foot looks like this. All right. That's the way that's a full heel. But you'll see some people's feet, they kind of go straight back. They don't really have much of a heel. All right. So that's a full heel. All right. Thicker skin. I'm an esthetician, so I tell you that we do tend to have thicker skin than Caucasians. Caucasians tend to have much thinner skin. All right. And larger eyes. All right. Curved jawbone. All right. 8. There are 9 species or different types to Paa Nagaru Salil. That is the Negro race. So 9 different types of the Negro race. 9. Secondly, it is Magalu Salal Mongoloid race, of which there are 3 variations to their race: Japanese, Chinese, and Korean. All right. So if you really study Japanese, Chinese, and Korean, you look closely at them. All right. Yes, they're all Mangalu, but they all have their own flavor. If you like, I can tell a Korean from a Chinese to a Japanese. They look different a little bit. They have slightly different swag too, how they carry themselves. All right. So they have their own distinctions amongst themselves. All right. So they have 3 variations. All right. 10. The root race of the Magalu Mongoloids also have a unique trait, and that is their upper eyelids, which is called the epicanthic fold. All right. And 11. The other 2 root races have a top eyelid of the original Magalu Mongoloids. 12. They also have fur, originally the only one with hollow strands. Each strand of their hair is hollow. Right? Baba further broke that down in another scroll, that their unique hair strands, he further specified it as gawuf. All right? That means like thorn-like. All right? So their hair is much different than Caucasian hair because their hair is hollow in the center. That's unique to them. All right? Where our hair is flat. Our follicles are flat. Caucasians, their follicles are circle, or Orientals or Mangalo, their follicles are circle as well, but they their hair grows with a hollow center. All right. So they have a different hair that's unique to them. We have our own in the Caucasian. All right. So 13. They also have other traits like shovel teeth, which they also have other traits like shovel teeth, very hard or brittle bones, making them prone to arthritis and certain tints to their bashar skin. All right. Shovel teeth is like teeth that uh it's kind of like it curves like this, their teeth. All right. Which you see mostly not all of them, but we're talking about the roots. So their teeth kind of look like it grows like that. All right. Whereas a lot of other people's teeth grows like this. And I'm talking about if you're looking at it from up here. All right, see how my teeth kind of go like this, straight? A shovel teeth, you would see it curve, each one curvy. All right, so that's shovel teeth. All right, the only other race that group that you might see with shovel teeth and hollow hair is some Native Americans. So that's more evidence that uh, Mangalu were over here before the Caucasian. All right. Not all the groups, because we were also here too. But the only people who have shovel teeth and hollow hair is the Magalu and some Native Americans. All right. So the last race is the Caucasus Salau, or the Caucasian race. And there are 6 species or types of Caucasus Salau, the Caucasian race, all right, from the Irish, the Gaelic, Scottish, Polish, Finnish, and Welsh. All right, so they have their own differences amongst themselves. All right, we're talking about the roots. All right, 16. They also have other traits such as long torsos, aquiline features, melanin recessive skin, ankles that merge into heel without a curve. That's what I was showing the foot. Low brows and uh, a square jawbone. All right, different eye structure, different. All right. If you look at, well, nowadays we're more in the middle, but go and look at an African torso and the shape. They tend to have a shorter torso and a higher butt and longer legs. Caucasians, in proportion to themselves, they tend to have a longer torso. All right. So what about the Javadu Indians who have 7 species to their race? All right. 18. They are a sub-races or aboriginals, and that is only original in habitation of a place on Taha Earth or a country. All right. So now you know what that means. To be aboriginal or original. What's the difference? All right. So aboriginal is only original in habitation of a place or on a country. All right. So there are many subraces, many aboriginals or aborigines, as in abnormal or irregular, not usual. All right. That's what it means. Exception of the originals. As you also have Asiatics. And what does it mean? A person of Asia or Asian. 21. Is there an Asiatic Negroid or a black man? The answer is yes. Those who are Nagaru Negroids who migrated from Afafrika, Africa, today eastward. From Asia. For Asia merely means easterly, eastern, speaking of a person that is an Easterner. All right. So that's why you look at existence, how and why you see that the Javadu or the Indians, all right, are in the green zone with the Africans because they are pulled out of us. All right. So it just means eastward. So they moved from Africa eastward. All right. And they were part of the green zone. 24. Does that really make them Asiatic black man? If you look at it, that is what he is, not who. All right. So that's what he is, not who he is. No matter where you live on this Kawak planet, nor how long, you will always be who you are. Afafre, Kahu, Africans, Nagaru, Negroids, or from Africa. All right. So that's evidence that their identity is going to be pulled back into ours. All right. Because that's who they became, not what they are. When you say Asia or Asiatic, all right, we're talking about from a specific place, Asia. All right. It's Salal Shash, race deception, to think you are other than who you are because of who you have become, because of location. Meaning, if you have fruit from Thailand and brought it to America and planted it here to grow, would it change? Or would it just be because you transplanted it there? No, it will still be a Thai fruit. 28. With these traits, you have a variety of people from all races that share a combination of these features. 29. You have seen tall and short Nagaru Negroids, and that is within the 9 species. 30. Some are 4 feet like the pygmies or little people of Africa and South America, and some are tall like the Watusi tribe. 31. You have Magalu mongoloids who are tall and very short, with round eyes, and some with dark skin or light skin, and even freckles. 32. With the Kakasu Caucasian, you have melanin recessive skin, making them prone to skin cancer, and have green, blue, or colorless eyes, while the other races have brown. All right. There's always somebody who likes to say, well, I'm black and I have green eyes, not before mixing or some type of defect in the genes. All right. When you learn about melanin, melanin is a very complex thing. And it's not equated just from one gene. It's multiple genes that are working together. So you need this factor. I don't know the exact I don't know the exact areas where those genes sit on, because I can't remember from off the top of my head, but it's at least 4 just for your skin color, right? For example. All right. So I'm just going to make up, for example. So you need 1 to be working, and you need 1 to be present. You need 2 to be present, 3 to be present, and 4 to be present. And not just present, you need them to be active and effective and harmonized together. So if anything's wrong with any of them, you'll have some type of distortion. All right. And so now you see that melanin is actually very complex. All right. So that's why you can have different type of albinism, because something could be wrong with this genetic, or something could be wrong with that genetic, or something could be wrong with this one. Or so you have some distortions. All right. But originally, the Tahites, all right, were tuned in perfectly. All right. With the very forces that grew them. So that means they were grown efficaciously. Efficaciously means effective. All right. So if there's something that's defect, either you picked it up or something is wrong. All right. So let's read that again. All right. So 32. Now with the Kakasu, you have melanin recessive skin, making them prone to skin cancer, or have green, blue, or colorless eyes, while the other races have dark brown. All right. So all the other races originally have dark brown eyes. And you know the importance of your eyes is an extension of your nervous system. Your eyes is part of your nervous system. All right. It's an extension. Your brain, everything else. And we know the importance of melanin to stabilize your nervous system, the neurons. It needs melanin. All right. So that's why you see that even if they have lighter skin, their eyes will still be dark. All right. Because the nervous system, even though your skin could be lacking melanin, your nervous system needs melanin. All right. To function. All right. To stabilize it. You notice that people with albinism, their eyes are going like this. Like you can't focus, depending on what kind of albinism that they have. And that's why, because the melanin is what stabilizes it. All right. So 33. As to mixing your natat seed and becoming lighter skinned or multi-hued, it does not matter because Pa Nadaru, the overseers, gave each of the three races traits unique to each. 34. As to the Nagaru Salil Negro race, all right, Asmuni. As to the Nagaru Salil, the Negro race, your trait, and only yours, is your Wabar here. None of the other two original races, being the Magalu or the Kakasu, have Wabar here. They have Farad, all right, flats, thin, straight, or even curly or hollow, but not like lamb's wool. All right. They have goat-like fur, as most other animals. 37. Which is a sign of who is who? Which is a sign of who is, in fact, the root race with the strongest genes, even after much seed mixing. All right. So especially us here in the West, all right, there's been a lot of seed mixing. All right. But when you have the dominant genes, that tends to root you still within that original seed. All right. So, which is a sign of who is who. In fact, the root race with the strongest genes. All right. So you see that it tends to want to dominate. All right. Even after much race mixing, because it has the strongest. All right. So for Nuwapians, you see the Wabar here of a Nagaru Negroid may twice become like Farah fur. All right. So 2 times the hair may be like fur. All right. These are the 2 times. 39. When the new baby, Mawas or Mawas's baby, so when a newborn Mawas baby is Ladud born, because his or her genes are weak, as she or he grows older and stronger, his or her fur will transform into nappy, kinky, or woolly, as Nagaru Negroids have. All right. So some of our babies are already born with their wabar. Some of them already have their woolly hair, but some of the babies you'll see are born with straight hair. All right, because their genes are still weak, still developing, and as they become more active and more activated, you'll see that the Nagaru genes take over. All right, they become more woolly. All right. 40. And when in old age, Nagaru Wabar Negro hair transforms to become thin, flat, straight, or curly. All right. So as we get older, you'll notice that sometimes the hair starts to lose its, if you still have hair in your head, all right, you'll notice that your hair has become straighter as you're getting older, right, in old age. Why? Because as one ages, their genes become weak again, so their wabar hair can become like Farah fur, yet DNA testing can still reveal the race of its owner, such as the hair from mummies in ancient Makmat, Egypt, appearing flank or straight after mummification, yet not fur, yet hair. So wabar, hair, is the unique trait of the root race, and the very texture of his or her hair is proof that she or he has the strongest genes. All right. So that's why some of the mummies may even appear to have straight hair, because you have the science now of how genes express themselves in their weak state or strong state. All right. And then they do a genetic testing, and even with the hair that may appear straight, that they're still carrying those genetics. All right. So how old was the mummy or the person when they died? What state was their genes in? All right. Most people are not dying at the peak of their life. All right. 43. And the Kakasu, oh, another thing that's interesting that I learned as well, that when we die, brown eyes tend to turn blue. All right. If their eyes are still there, it loses its melanin, because melanin is constantly producing pigments coming from the melanocyte. As the melanocyte slows down, or as you're dead, it stops producing that pigment. All right. So then your eyes can appear blue. All right. When in life you had brown eyes. So what's interesting is you see how crazy the mental illness is, that we are associating our death state or our weak state to beauty. All right. And we're actually worshiping the image of death. All right. Because eventually you'll have blue eyes when you're dead. All right. So you're walking around like a zombie, like a living dead, if you really think about that. All right. So 43. And the Kakasu Salau Caucasian race, or the root race, also has a unique trait, and it is Lawan color of the iris of the Ayantwi eyes is lighter than the other eyes of the two root races, being Laben white, or Ramed gray, or Zarek blue, or Kader green, and the combination of these. All right. So the appearance of why the eyes look white, or some of them, like you might see, their eyes look white, or why it looks gray, why it looks blue. All right. That's all just lack of melanin. And what's happening is it depends on the relationship to, what is that called? The elastin. Can't believe I forgot the word. The elastin. Collagen. Yeah, collagen. So the reason why it appears a certain color is because the way light hits off of the collagen of the eyes. And depending on how that collagen is put together, can refract the light to appear a certain way. So for example, somebody with where you see white, you're seeing really right into their collagen. All right. Or even I've seen like purple eyes, which is actually a form of albinism. All right. So it's like you're looking at light bouncing off of different structures of the eye. All right. So then it also can depend on what parts of the eye is missing the melanin. So each root race has their own unique racial trait of identification, their own identity. 45. The Nagaru Negroids, unique hair. All right. The Magalu, the Mongoloids, the unique lids. And the Kakasu, or the Caucasians, is the unique Ayantwi, Lawan, eye colors. It's plain to see that only one of these three is in fact the original root race, and that's Nagaru Negroids. For both Magalu Mongoloids, and Caucasians share some of the same traits, revealing that they came from the originals, Nagaru Negroids. And these days, the race mixing result, you can find these traits on other subraces. All were originally from the Modatats, mother of all races, the Nagaru Negroid race. And all who live on earth, anywhere on the earth, were originally from Africa, Africa. That makes the Nagaru Negro race, the Modatats, too, that's the mothers, and the Madadu, that's the fathers of all people of the planet. Their God in the flesh. All right, that's the source from which all others come. All right. It was interesting because there were these scientists. Where were they from again? Japan. Were they Japanese or Chinese? I can't remember what country they were from anymore. They were either from Japan or China. I can't remember. I think Japan. And they were scientists that they knew that Caucasians came from Africans because they could see that Caucasians had weaker genetics. But they thought that they were unique, and they thought that they came from a whole different source. They say, yeah, okay, Caucasians come from Africans, but we come up from a whole different, unique source. So they were doing some genetic research on themselves, and then they found out that they found that their unique, that their uniqueness, that their uniqueness actually was pulled out from South African people. So their genes took them, as they were researching their genes, it took them right back to Africa. So then they said, yeah, I guess we do come out of Africa. All right. That was what their research concluded. All right. So we're on 49. In time, other beings came to this planet from other star systems, other than Paa Ma'at, that's the Orion star system, and Paa Sabatat, that's the Sirius star system. All right. So beings started to come here, all right, outside of just Orion and Sirius star system. All right. And all these were not agreeable Mukwanu beings or creatures. Some took residence under Pa Baharat, the seas, while others in the deep caverns of Pa Kawak, Taha, planet Earth, while others chose to mix their DNA with those who departed from Africa, Africa, and dwell eastward, or what's called Mesopotamia. Those in Mesopotamia came in contact with the Anakim. All right. So different beings are coming in contact with different beings. So we're learning about the ones in Mesopotamia, all right, who interacted with the Anakim. That's a giant race from the Draco or Draco star system, who would use them as bara, food, and with other races transported from Kamahat, the Pleiades star system, who chose to breed with them, making them their daughters because they have the mitochondrial DNA. All right. So it looks like they took the women from the Pleiades star system. All right. And they took certain races. So now another race, yeah, Hasmui. So they took another race transported from Kamahats, the Pleiades star system. So now we're getting more details in that relationship between the Draconians and the Palladians. All right. So now we have more information in this book that is saying that it was the Draconians that took some of the Palladians. All right. And transported them as well. And so originally they were eating the Palladians, the Draconians, but then they started breeding with them. Same way that the Draconians, they were coming down and eating the Mesopotamian people. All right. because it said originally they would use them as bara food, and then they started also breeding with them. All right. So they were taking their daughters because they have the mitochondrial DNA. All right. So they were interested in the women. So now you understand anybody who's in OES and you study the Eastern Stars. I'm not in the Eastern Stars, but I did read their books just because. And I don't feel comfortable joining. I'll tell you why. The Order of the Eastern Stars, OES. You have the 5 pillars or the 5 women. All right. So now you know you're ready going to Christianity because that's the 5. And the first one, I'll never forget that Ada. She she's a good daughter because it's showing the virtues of a good woman, and it's all suffering, loyalty, and all that. I'm like, wow, these women really suffer. So they offer themselves up as willing sacrifices because Ada, who was the a daughter from this what was the guy? Was he a soldier, a warrior, something like that? And he really loved his daughter so much. And she was so excited. And they said the first person, whoever he made an agreement with, the first person that you see, you're going to have to bring her to the mountain to bring that person and sacrifice whoever you see first. And it was his daughter he saw first because she just loved her dad so much. So she was going to be sacrificed, but she was supposed to be like a good girl, whatever. And because you could also sacrifice people, like it was just a sad thing. But she loved her dad so much, so she wanted to honor him. So she willingly went up there to let herself be sacrificed to honor her dad. And her dad is offering her up to sacrifice for what? And she lays down, and then they put some type of scarf over her head, and then she's like, no, I've never did anything wrong, so I deserve to see. And she took that off so she could see. So I guess you're gonna look me in the eye when you kill me. And that's pretty much her story, you know. So that it's all about offering up to these extraterrestrials. They were interested in the women because of why? Because of that mitochondrial DNA. All right. And it's just like a farm, like on a farm animal, right? You rather keep the more, you want to have more female animals because you can get more industry out of them. All right. You could eat them, you could use them for the dairy, you could use them to keep, whatever it is, you could do a lot. You could use them for more than just food. All right. So 53. These stood some even 7 feet tall, looking very humanoid, yet living on dark planets hidden from Paa Taraq, the sun. They were very pale with Laben Ayantui, white eyes, which only appear blue because blue light has the shortest wavelength, and these rays of light are scattered more widely. All right. So blue hits your eyes first and it scatters more widely. So that's why their eyes appear blue. So they actually had la ben farar, white fur, transparent or colorless skin, jasad flesh, and were eaters of flesh and damam blood drinkers. These Makwanu beings bred with these Makasu caucasoids 6,000 years ago, and of those who mix or breed by way of them. They learned much from the killing, lust, lying, and stealing, which resulted in some of the sons of pure Nagaru Negroids mixing with some of the Zazaz Tatu women, and from their mixing and their unnatural sexual activity resulted in the curse of Barasi or leprosy of the sons of Canaan, in 404 BC. And they became their gods, their overlords, who gave them what is called Za'am, religious opinion. All right. So now we're seeing that you already have these extraterrestrials, all right? And then you have this grafted race, and then you have the Palladians. They come down, all right? And then they have so everybody's interested in the Caucasian female, or the female, let's just say female in general. The reason, because of the mitochondrial DNA. You could do something with it. So then some of the Nagaru males mix with some of these women too. All right. And it gave birth to all types of different types of beings. All right. From their a natural contact. Because even the way, the mentality, like you can have the same two people, for example, and depending on how they connect, can influence what kind of being they give birth to as well. All right. So, so it's like when you're giving birth to a being, when you're coming, like two people are coming together and there's love and respect for each other, it can give birth to a different part of the genetics than someone who's just being produced out of lust. All right. For example. All right. So let's read that again. So they learned much from them of killing, lust, and lying, stealing, which resulted in some of the sons of the pure Nagaru Negroids mixing with the Zazas Tatu women. And from their mixing and their unnatural sexual activity resulted in the curse of Barasi or leprosy of the sons of Cain or Canaan in 4004 BCE. And they became their gods, their overlords, who gave them what they call Za'am, religious opinion. These overlords, Kamahu, Pleiadians, asked of the Adamites to kill and offer animals, decide flesh and demand blood for them, called offerings and sacrifice. When they asked them to offer, and they asked them for Hamam human, for Barar food, or Bara food, all right? So animals and also human. In Waqut's time, they taught them to war and kill others and called them their chosen Salah race, yet meant people. They divided them into Rananats, names called Kabalu, tribes, by their breeding. All right, so they're all the same. And Baba explained how they're just branching out from the same roots. All right, so you start breeding. I want this trait more. All right, and you start to separate everybody, like you're organizing. All right, and this farm animal goes here because this is serving this purpose, and I'm gonna breed this specific trait. I need this cow to start producing more milk, so I'm gonna breed dairy cows because they produce more milk than this type of cow. So that'll become a tribe, all right, because it has that feature here, and you just organizing your farm, all right, pretty much, all right. So they divided them into Rananats names and called them Kabalu tribes by their breeding, and roamed and spread over the Kawak Taha planet Earth, mixing with others and imposing their will on others. Whomever did not accept what they offered to be worshipped, their god or gods, and chose one of their own as their own god. So let's read that again. 63. Whomever did not accept what they offered to be worshipped, their gods, and chose one of their own as their one god. 64. They gave them dialects of tongues and names for each tribe, and names for their Gadadu, gods, and one Gadad, God. All right. So now remember, And some other scrolls, you had these extraterrestrials that was also teaching the women that they charms and roots. All right. So not knowing how to intoxicate. All right. Seduction. All right. What else? They taught them. They taught them sorcery. All right. So sorcery, I like to just simplify. What does that mean? It means deception. All right. Knowing how to appear a certain way. All right. So now these women who came in contact with these extraterrestrials, then they can go out and seduce the other races. All right. Through their unnatural sex acts too. So they gave them dialects, tongues, names for each tribe, and names for their Gadad, gods, and the one Gadad God. 65 in Genesis chapter 11, verses 1 through 3, and also verses 6 through 7, and also verses 9. It speaks about the Tower of Babel and how the people were united in Genesis chapter 11. In those verses, it says, and the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime they had for mortar. And they said, go to, let us build a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven. And let us make a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they all have one language, and this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down there and confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. Therefore, in the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth, and from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. This Lord was Enlil, and his two sons named Nanar and Ninurta, who came down to earth. All right. So you have these extraterrestrials that they became threatened. All right. By a certain group taking their power back. All right. So this Lord, all right, who said, let's go confound their tongues, all right, was Enlil, all right, and his two sons, Nanar and Ninurta. And 67, Enki and Murdoch, who were in Afafreka, Africa, mixed their seed with African Zazas Tatu women. All right. So Enki and Murdoch, they did not create the Africans. They were there already. They mixed in with them. All right. And this is one way the Damam blood of the Anunnaki mixed in with Pa Nagaru, the Negroid seed, because of these Anunnaki named Enki and Murdoch mixed in with African women and went up under Pa Nadaru. All right. So when they mixed in, listen to this. It says they went up under Pa Nadaru. So it doesn't say that they pulled the African women into what they were. No. It says, no, they were pulled in to what the Nagaru women were. So they went up. So Enki and Murdoch were Anunnaki, but then they end up going under the overseers. All right. So the forces of the Africans. So they end up going on under them. All right. So they mixed in with Afafreka, African women, and went up under Pa Nadaru overseers. 67. Once Nimrod returned Africa from his father's land, he brought back the tones of that Saka land as well. his ancient tongue and used language Nuapui or Nuapic from Nepatin, Monroe, ancient Makhmat, Egypt, to change the frequency of the language spoken in Shinar over the area which Enlil ruled. All right. So it was the African tongue. All right. So Enlil, Inky and Murdoch mixing with the Africans, they speak the African tongue. All right. So they got pulled up under the African family. So Nimrod, who's part Anunnaki, all right, part Mesopotamian, and then also part African, he was like, you know what, let me take this African tongue to my brothers over in Mesopotamia to liberate them. So though 70, so they took that African tongue back over to Mesopotamia. So those that were African, like Nimrod, actually were affected by these original tones on the molecular level of their DNA. So Nimrod, his genetics was being activated by those tones. Thus, they began to think differently and began to think on the same level collectively and change their minds. And they wanted to connect with their forefathers above and create a name for themselves, not under this overlord Enlil, all right? So their forefathers, all right? So they wanted to, so talking about these mixed ones with Anunnaki, they wanted to directly connect with Anu themselves. And we don't need to go through Enlil anymore, all right? So the people unified and became Wahu Akal, or one mind, Wahu Khatat, one body, Wahu Ba'ah, one soul, which is why this overlord feared that nothing that they thought to do would be out of reach. All right? I'm going to tell you something funny. How sometimes people use their titles and power and everything like that, all right, that you're not supposed to question because, like, I'm close to Baba, so I said it, so that's good. All right, that's what Enlil was doing. All right, and they was like, we're tired of this. I want to make a direct connection. All right, that's why you read the scrolls, because you have access directly to the mind of Baba. You don't have to be at the mercy of how I or anybody else interprets it. All right, make your own connection. And for some people, that can intimidate them because they're like, oh, this person may take my place, or I might not be needed, or anything that's in their imagination they'll be able to do. So let's go sabotage them. All right. That's what that was Enlil's plan. All right. So 71, thus they began to think differently and began to think on the same level collectively and change their minds. And they wanted to connect with their forefathers above and create a name for themselves, not under Enlil, not under this overlord Enlil. All right. You're not under anybody. We're all fellow students. All right. I might have read a book first. Okay, so what? Now, once we both read it, now the playing field has been leveled. All right. So now it's just about who you are. All right. After that. All right. So 72. The people unified and became Rahu Akal, one mind, one body, one soul. Which is why this overlord feared that nothing that they thought to do would be out of their reach. 73. There would be nothing that they could not accomplish because of their sanan, or unity. 74. Once Enlil saw that they could no longer control the people mentally and were not affected by the broadcast from the Beru, he, along with two of his sons named Nanar and Ninurta, and with the coven or a coven of Muksaftat witches from Mesopotamia. So Enlil, his two sons, and a coven of witches from Mesopotamia cast a spell of division on the people and separated or divided the people through Lahaj language and Sabah hue and Lawan skin or color of skin. All right. Remember, I was telling you to read the Willie Lynch scroll. All right. That's an extraterrestrial book, because what happened in the South, all right, these white landowners, they were afraid that they were going to lose control, as they were like, maybe we're outnumbered. All right. So this mysterious man shows up with a manual of how to create a slave. All right. A new nigger, as they were called, create a new Negro. All right. And it's all about divide and conquer. All right. And we know that they would have different things going on because they're using African tones. All right. And in another scroll, we see that they were liberating not just the African sea, but pretty much everyone was getting liberated. All right. And they were unified on the same frequency. All right. So it's easy to go and divide them again because of they were already mixed anyway. So you could, like, let's do it by skin color. All right. Let's do it by this and that. So they did it by language. All right. Hue and Lawan, color of skin. All right. So through these extraterrestrials and these women. All right. $75. And there are also Tasu Sabah, 9 hues to the Nagaru Salau Negro race. That was used against the people to instill the spell of division. So even without mixing, all right, with other races, there's unique features on the original Nagaru race, 9 features, all right. And our unique place and time with each other, all right, was used also. All right, that was easy to use. 76. Those that were the same complexion could communicate with each other. And if they were different, they could not. All right. If they were not in communication, there's confusion and there's no unity. This was unsuccessful because different hues were naturally attracted to each other, married and mixed in, and had children. So that plan did not work. However, the mental effects of the spell are still in effect today. And that is the reason why people don't work together as they should. And for example, why musical groups do not stay together, although they produce beautiful music together. All right. So each, you know that your skin, for example, has its unique vibration. All right, because your skin shows how fast that melanin vibrates. All right. So in actuality, each hue has its own station. It would have been easy to divide and conquer us, but unfortunately, the reason why it didn't work was because it's not like, well, I'm this color, so I'm just going to mix with this person. Amongst us, we were just naturally attracted to each other. So you couldn't keep us divided in that way, but you still divide the mentality. All right. So they gave stones with rules to follow and how to kill, and offer animal flesh in offerings, and who would not obey was killed and put in the ground or cave. 80. The Anakims would come and later take the Mawats dead and eat their decide flesh and blame it on wild canines, as this what they would also do. All right. So it's like, oh, the children got attacked by the pack of wild bears. All right, like in the story when the children were making fun of Elijah's bald head, right? And then supposedly in the story, that bear, they said 2 she bears came out and devoured all the children. All right. So a lot of it is these extraterrestrials blaming it on, and they would just blame it on the wild animals. All right. Reminds me of like when Caucasian men would assault other people, and then they would scapegoat the assault on the closest black man. All right. 81. And their Anakims came, others of their tribes also came to earth, such as the Rephaim and the Zumim and the Emims, all under the Anunnaki. All right. So tribe. So they had different branches. So now we're hearing that there's different branches in the Anunnaki. So they have their own divide, and there's different things going on in that ship as well. All right. Because Enki, we know, was already mixed before he even came down here. All right. So you have different tribes of them coming down to earth. All right. So all under the Anakims, who were the gods of the Kaanu, the Canaanites, and beyond Paa Taraq, the planet Earth. They will come to earth and be called messengers, or Malek in Hebrew, from the ancient Molech or Melech or Molech. As record in their Bible book, in Amos chapter 5 verses 8 reads, Seek him that maketh the 7 stars and Orion, and turneth the shadow of death into morning, and maketh the day dark with night, and calleth for the waters of the sea, and poureth them out upon the face of the earth. The Lord is his name. And from and of the Melech in Amos chapter 5 verses 26 reads, But ye have borne the tabernacle of Molech, and churned your images, the star of your God, which ye made to yourselves. 84. In time, the Habaru, Hebrew, and Sasu Israelites mixed with the Kaanu Canaanites, who was bred by Anakim and or Anunnaki. All right, Anakim and Anunnaki, interchangeably used, who told them to spread their DNA with all others who birthed subraces and aboriginals and created religions and holy books and laws of fear. All right, so the Canaanites is being specifically their bread. All right, but you're still having families, because remember, you have they branch them out. All right, and they'll just call them different names, but they still from the same roots. But then they'll remix back. All right, so the Israelites go back and mix in with the Canaanites. It might seem confusing, like they're different people mixing in, but you see they branch off. Because usually dairy cows, they'll mix them with a certain type of breed to keep that breed going. So they'll create this distinct feature for the same species. It's the same species with different features. And it's like, okay, we need the chickens a little bit bigger. So they'll create that type of classification. But sometimes the breeds will go and mix with each other again. All right. So just to clarify, they're not completely different people. 85. These Safahat's books, scrolls, and stones, which were given by Molech or Mala'ikat or Malakim, called angels or Kabatu in Nuapic, who will come to earth in Hammam human form to instruct their chosen Shakasu people on what to do. All right. So Malakat or Malakim is known, who is coming down for the purpose to instruct. All right. So there's different Malakim depending on what the instructions are. You can have good Malakim, you can have bad Malakim. All right. So that's why they sacrifice to Molech. All right. Which you see sometimes referred to as devil. All right. So we have Malachi. You can see Malachi is he was sent down for us, from us, to us. All right. For what purpose? To instruct the people to raise their consciousness. All right. That's his instruction. So there's different beings that's coming to interact with different beings. All right. So now you don't have to be, what's that word called? Spooky. All right. There's good angels. There's bad angels. All right. There's good messengers. There's bad messengers. All right. Because I could be instructing you on how to make yourself more tasty so I could come back and eat you later. Because depending on what you're doing, you could season the flesh. Like I was watching this cooking show. And depending on how you kill the animal, you can bring out a different flavor in that same meat. Because you'll like hormones flavor the meat too. So you can start flavoring the meat long before you kill it. All right. And then you can marinate it, but you can marinate it in its own essence, so to speak. So you can have the animal, you could program the animal to do it for you. So you know what kind of taste you like. You can give instructions, for example. All right. So you can have all kinds of different instructions, how to uplift yourself, how to further suppress yourself. All right. How to go out and suppress. There's all types of things. All right. So 86. And would protect them. All right. So let's read that again. 85. These Safahat's books, scrolls, and stones, which were given by the Molech or Malaikats, or the Malakim, called angels, or in Kabatu in Nuwapic, who came to earth in Hammam human form to instruct their chosen Shakasu people on what to do. 86. And would protect them from all others, yet had no Sakam power over nature. All right. So you still have to respect and live within the confines of nature. All right. Or the rules. I don't want to say confines. It's the rules of nature. All right. Some people just have more knowledge of nature. So if you know, for example, I'm not the most technologically savvy person. So I don't use my phone, for example, to its full potential, but I'm always amazed at all the features my phone could do. All right. Some people, they can use it and do so much with that same instrument that you have because they comprehend the rules of that thing that they have. All right. Same thing with nature. You can move within the rules of nature. Now, some people are ignorant, or they're ignoring the facts of who they are, or they're unaware. All right. So you have to raise the consciousness. All right. Or awareness. So now you level the playing field. All right. So they will protect them from all others, yet had no sakam power over nature. All right, so let's dispel the spookism that we had. And taught them to kafuf, fear them, and this or that will befall them. So teach them in their religions. All right. So you had these different kind of Melakims, all kinds of different Melakats, all right, or Meleks. Some are good, possibly. Some are not good, all right. Because if I know more, I could exploit you. I could help you, all right. So a lot of these Melakims, they exploited the people because they had no power over nature. All right, so they would keep the people disconnected from nature and living in fear for the purpose of control. All right. So they taught them to kafur, fear them, or this or that will befall them. So they teach in their religion, fear God, or you will suffer manrad, hell's fire. All right. So you see, Bob is different as far as that goes. Bob is a Malakim as well, but what he does is different. All right. He's showing you how to empower yourself. He's taking you back to Pa'ut, to all. All right. Now, if you take time to connect, that's on you. All right. Take time to know, raise the consciousness. All right. Others made sure to keep you in your place. All right. So you had different incarnations of different types of Malachims. All right. So 88. And from 4000 BCE, their dragon man gods gave them 6,000 years to rule, as recorded in their Bible in Revelation chapter 13, verses 2. Reads, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were the feet of a bear, and his mouth was the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his powers, and his seat and great authority. All right. So the dragon gave them power to rule or have dominance for 6,000 years. All right. Draconians. And from 4,000 BCE to prepare a harvest on earth for them to take from here to their kawakats, planets, as bara food. All right. So the thing is that even though these beings are not nice beings, they're not nice people, they still comprehend the laws of nature. So they knew that this cycle that they were in was conducive. After a certain cycle, more than likely, the environment wouldn't be conducive for them. All right. So it's like, you know what? I'm growing food. It's just like like being any type of farmer. Let's just call it farming. All right. So if you understand the season, you know that you have until this season. So you plant the seed, because if you plant it out of season, it's not going to grow. So you plant the seed and you have until then, and then harvest time, because if you don't come back, it's all going to be dead. All right. And then you come back and you gather your harvest, and then you just feast on it. All right. And then also the planet itself may go into a state. The environment itself may not be conducive for their life form after a certain time. So they like, oh, we got to work between this time and we have until that time. All right. So they're still working within the confines of natural nature. All right. Like all beings have to. All right. So it wasn't a random time that they came here. All right. Possibly they'll move on to somewhere else. That's, there's planets being born and dying all the time. What's happening on Earth already happened. We learned about in Mafkuzel Life. That already, what we're going through happened already in Sirius C. And the beings who were too far, they lagged too far behind. They faded with the old system. All right, so they faded. That's where we are now. All right, and the ones who progressed, they were able to change their density, and they became Ethereans. All right, so now it's the same story being told over and over again. So now it's our turn. All right, and then there's going to be another turn. All right, sometime for somebody else. So now these draconians, they comprehend cycles. So this is their cycle. That's their prime time. So now they're probably making their way. If you just, from what I'm measuring out, then they're going to make their way to whatever other place is going into its moon cycle. That's what I'm gathering. Okay. So the dragon gave them power to rule and have dominance for 6,000 years, from 4,000 BCE, to prepare a harvest on earth, to take from here to there Kawakat's planets as bara food. All right. So, and also, Earth is not really that unique. Uh, you have many planets from the Kepler telescope. They were able to see other Earth-like planets that look almost identical. There was one that was like 2.5 times the size, or 2.5 size, the size of planet Earth. And I was like, oh, that's like Earth before the crash, because we know that Earth was split in half and it was twice as big. So it's like you have many dimensions of and many time zones. All right. There's one planet called Kepler. Some of them are exactly the same size. But by the time you get to it, it'll be so far. Rahubat Amana.
Rauba, I want to ask something.
Sure.
Why, who create these dragonians?
That's a great question. I don't know. And why did
So
they come about and what was going on? I don't know. That's
these dragonians are more powerful than Enil.
powerful.
I
How so?
mean, they
Uh-huh.
are more, yeah, they know more than nature than Enil.
Oh, Nahoots, no, they don't. They know very little. That's why they're so controlling. They're very trickery. So, the reality is that, like, the Patahites, for example, when they were grafting right here to grow their food, they were having problems. So they actually had to go and get more information from Tahuti. All right. And beings that were already here, because we've already done many things. You just have different natures of beings. So, for example, just because I can doesn't mean I should. For them, because they can, they do, if that makes sense.
Okay, why our overseas they
Mm-hmm.
don't protect they didn't protect their children? We.
Uh-huh. They were protected because
Why
they
they
didn't have
didn't-
dominion. They, yeah,
Yeah.
we were talking about a certain region. So in Mesopotamia, they were doing all this. The problem is that a lot of us, we are wannabes. So there's natural protections that takes you off of their radar. And that's why the Draconians are very smart. So they said, go and mix in with those people so that we can have dominion over them. But the African genetics are stronger. So what happens is, like, when Inky went and mixed in with the Africans, he became African. And then he went to go liberate the others. Not Inky, but his seed, Nimrod. Nimrod said, let me go and help those others. And that's why Enlil and all these other Anunnaki, they were afraid that they were losing control. So we have to keep the people ignorant to who they are, because they just take advantage of you not. If you don't control your ship, I'll come and control your ship for you, if you like. I mean, if you don't know who you are, that's where your protections are lost, you know.
Yes.
So you do
And
have the natural protections.
one question more.
Yes.
Anu Anu the father is agreeable or disagreeable?
Um, that's more question. I don't know, because the biggest question that I have is the nature of the beings on Anunnaki, on that ship Nibiru. It seems like at times they don't agree all the time, and they travel. Because Draconians, you're talking about a specific star system, so that's a specific being. Palladians, that's a specific being. Anunnaki, it starts to get very vague, you know. So I think that the reality is probably yes and no. And Anu, you see that he could be influenced. It just means president. And you had another being that tried to kill Anu another time and to take his place to become the next most high. So you can have a good president at times, you can have a bad president at times, you know, and they don't always necessarily agree about how they're gonna go about a certain thing. All right. Um, so I'm gonna lean towards more disagreeable. That's why
Yeah.
we don't look towards, like Baba's showing us that we shouldn't be looking for the Anunnaki to come help us. All right. And everybody's like, a lot of people who haven't kept up, they're going to be because before we were learning about the Anunnaki, because Baba was pulling us out of, he was trying to teach this long time ago, back in the 60s and early 70s. And people, he said, they weren't interested because they were so afraid they're going to go to hell or something. They want to learn about Muhammad or Jesus. So he was like, okay, this is what we have to do. So I have to explain who those gods are, but you can't just go attacking someone's God because they're going to turn against you. So he went back to the original scripts of who these gods were and said, okay, you know what? We're going to go back to the Sumerian tablets. And for now, I'll give you what you want. So a lot of us, and we were praying to Anu, praying to Enki, praying to Nibiru, waiting for Nibiru, like Nibiru is going to come and pick us up. And then later on, Baba came back and said, okay, now that I have you thinking outside of some spook god, and I have you looking for physical beings, now I can sit you down and warn you that these beings are coming to eat. More than likely, if you're waiting for a ship, you're probably going to be food. So then he started to talk about who these beings were, and they're not really good. All right. And then we start learning even further the importance of getting our tones back, and that you have physical craft, because everybody keeps like, oh, these extraterrestrial crafts, that that your body itself is also a craft as well. And I'm not saying we don't have our own good crafts to get on, physical crafts. But it's like the moment you can get in tune with yourself, you won't be at the mercy of, because you see Baba's not the only one who carries the title Malachim, all right? Because he's known as Malachi York. But you happen to come across a good one, all right? He could have been a reptile, that's, you know what I mean? So now you tune yourself with yourself, and now Baba's showing you how to tune yourself with yourself so you can wake up those higher senses, so you're no longer at the mercy of a being who may know more than you. Because just because somebody knows more than you doesn't make them an agreeable being. Because you see what these other beings who knew more than their own creation that they grafted, they were so powerful because they grafted that that creation. And then for us, they weren't affecting us because they were in a different zone. We had a what do you call that? A zone. A force field. We had a force field that they wouldn't be able to cross. But the way that they were able to start crossing it was when they start breaking down, because Baba also explained that in order to affect something, you have to first infect it. So that's why they push so much, be fruitful and multiply. And they also instruct their creation to go and mix in amongst others. And that's why you see Abraham raped Hagar, the African, all right, and then create this being called Ishmael, who would be African and Mesopotamian, which is pretty much an Arab, a mixed being, right? And depending on what's active in him, yes, Kosi, I see you as well.
You talk about they had to invest, and I heard like they use the white woman to, and they were like organizing orgies. I don't know exactly. I don't remember exactly the information. But I read something about them using the white woman to sleep around with African leaders and kings, and that's how they took over that part that they call now Middle East. Is that it?
Right. Yes. So even like how it was said what Enlil did when the people were getting unified, you can see this was an extraterrestrial agenda. So Enlil said it was he was like, all those people they're going under the African jurisdiction, all right? So we're losing control. So it was the two brothers, and what did they use? They used the women from Mesopotamia, all right? And what did they teach the women in Mesopotamia, the Mesopotamian witches, all right? to go and that's why Baba also said that Caucasian women, they could be pulled in, you know, for example, into the family, as long as they're not witches. All right, that was in which scroll? In one of the Paa Taraqs, how that of soul can be pulled into. All right, as long as they're not witches. So they took the witches. So I'm gonna say a witch, because Baba never specifically explained what a witch is. But let's just say a witch is a woman who has made a pact with these Anunnaki to do their bidding. So go sleep with that African or whoever, all right, and bring us back their seed, bring us back their child, all right. So, because the woman still has to allow, like her genetics still has to allow. For example, the mitochondrial DNA is very powerful, all right, and this is why it's powerful, because it's shaped like a circle. And inside that circle, you can't insert other information. But depending on what's going on with the woman, she could stop certain things or stop it or allow it. Because her body, because your body and mental, everything, that's why Baba said that the women set the tone. And it's important to get this information into the woman's hands. All right. Because now her consciousness is waking up, and you could actually consciously turn off and turn on, because life is growing from her womb. She's our laboratory from which everything is being pulled forth. All right. So that's why it's even important what a woman's looking at when she has a child, when she's pregnant, because if she's looking at something, like she could be admiring somebody who's not even a father. She just keeps admiring him. She gives birth to a child who somewhat looks like that person that she's admiring, who's not related to the child by blood at all. So the genetics, if she takes that child back, and let's say the man has active mafkuzet, all right, she has leprosy. Instead of mafkuzet, she has leprosy, but she'll bring back that melanin. All right. So they were very aware of creating the bridges. So they create links. So now they can go and affect those people that is outside of they're protected. All right. So now I create these links. All right. Now I can get into the family and go and destroy it. All right. So yeah, sex was a big thing that was used. And you see what Enlil used. All right. Even back then, the extraterrestrials, they know the science of genetics. Right. So they asked the 144,000 be prepared to serve them as their slaves, as bovines, cows serves man kind now. All right. So they came to Earth to prepare a feast to take back to their planet. All right. The same way that people, farmers, prepare bovine, like cows, and the way that we serve man. All right. We grow and take care of animals just to eat them later. All right. So their beings choose and treat them nicely. And it's like, take care of the skin, do all that, make sure they eat nice. Hopefully they populate a lot, and and it seems like they taking good care of them. All right. Only because they're going to eat them later. So the shepherd eventually leads their sheep to slaughter. All right. And it's harvest time. All right. So from 4000 BCE on down to the year 1, all was well, and they offered animal sacrifices and warned and killed for Anakim that they would have Hammam Jasad, human flesh as well. All right. So for that time period, so this is how diabolical and mean the draconians are. They don't have any conscience when it comes to that. They knew that there's a harvest time, so it's not time to eat them yet. I mean, not all of them. It's not time to eat them all yet. So you just have the animals feeling comfortable, like you have a barn. You want them to feel comfortable, and it's like all was well, all right, from that time period, all right, until it's time for slaughter, all right. So the Anunnaki's taking care of them, all right, and in turn they're just offering them maybe other beings, other people from time to time, and animals. We'll settle for animals, but really I want to eat you, but I'll eat that other animal for now, all right. So from 4000 BC on down to the year 1, all was well, and they offered animal sacrifices and warned and killed for Anunnaki or Anakim that they would have Hammam Jasad, human flesh as well. All right, that's what those wars was about. They always sent them to wars. All right, and don't worry, you're my chosen people. You'll be victorious. All right, so do not be afraid because you have the Lord on your side. All right, and now there's lots of flesh to eat. All right, from the other side because you won, so you can offer up the other people that you're constantly fighting. In the Bible, they're constantly fighting. In the Quran, they're constantly fighting. All right, 93. All this was done, and they followed the instructions of these beings as their gods called them Elohim, Elyon El, Adonai, Hashim, El Olam, El Barith, El Shaddai. And they came to them in many forms, satires. In Leviticus chapter 17, verses 7, and they shall no more offer their sacrifices unto devils, after whom they have gone whoring. This shall be their statute forever unto them throughout their generations. In 1 Samuel chapter 5, verses 2 through 7, and human form. As Kabatu, angels of Nawar lights, and Nawar lights and Narar fire, from Wakut's time to time, they abducted many of them, their chosen people, that they grafted in place of themselves for food, as they were on the Draconians' menu. All right. So you're originally Africans are not on the menu, not originally, but you can be, because if you season yourself up to taste like the meat I like, sure, I'll eat you. All right. But Baabaa explained that Africans, it's like for example, for those of us who eat flesh, there's some meats that you just don't really like that much as other meats. Especially like if you're used to a certain domesticated, like if you're used to a meat that you specifically grew to be a meat, you season it specifically for your taste. All right. So let's just say you're used to eating, I don't know, cow, and not just any cow. Let's just say Wagyu. Wagyu is like some of the top of the line cow because of its marbling. All right. So you have Wagyu cow. When you cut them, it has a Wagyu steak, and it's like the fat and the muscle perfect ratio. It cooks a certain way. It's predictable. You like it. Now, if suddenly you switched it to like a wild cow, it would probably be too gamey for your taste. You won't really like it because you made something specifically for yourself. For example, that's another example. So Africans are not on the menu, but they start mixing in with those Wagyu steaks. All right. So they're putting themselves on the menu depending on what's activated. All right. So they activate their Wagyu genetics. All right. So now they vibrate like the Wagyu. But an unmixed African doesn't have any Wagyu genetics to vibrate. However, you can start vibrating the thinking. All right. But that's why they really want their Adamites to go and mix in with all others. All right. And that's why Bible calls us in the West. I mean, we're about to go back to Africa soon. But Bible calls us in the West half souls. All right. Because we already got the mark of the beast, as Bible explained. The mark of the beast is genetic markers. All right. Some of us have these Wagyu markers in our genetics. That's why it's more important because what happened was that's why Enlil got upset. If the Africans minded their business, he feels. I'm gonna speak as if like I'm an Anunnaki, right? If they just minded their business, we would have just been eating fine because we're not going to Africa to eat the people. But I mean, we would love to, but we're not doing that. But the Africans are coming to Mesopotamia and liberating our menu. So this is what pissed them off, because you're taking these beings off our menu. All right. And essentially, as Baba said, he said that we are on the menu. All right. He let us know that as of right now, yes, you guys are on the menu. All right. And just because you're sitting in Africa doesn't mean you're not on the menu, because I've gone to Africa many times and there's a lot of mixing that happened along the border. All right. And Africans don't typically know the power of who they are at this time. That's changing. And then on top of it, a lot of them are doing Christianity and Islam. So they're losing their natural protections. All right. So right now there's a lot of beings on the menu, and Baba would like to get us off the menu in time. All right. Because these beings are coming to eat. All right. And they're doing it all the time. And Baba also said, think about it. All these Caucasian people and others that get abducted, you don't really see as many of us get abducted. He said, now take a moment and think that maybe there are beings that's been advocating for you this whole time. All right. And you didn't even know. All right. So 95. Then in the years, one began to incarnate and have Jannah sex with human Ashahu females again to breed these sons of gods. They prepared the 144,000 who were separated from the Nagaru Natat, Negroid seed of the Ghanam, sheep, from the scapegoat or rams. This caused the real Messiah or anointed one of Nagaru or Negroid seed or Kabal tribe of Judah to come forth. And this one said, I came only for the lost sheep, the woolly head of the house of Judah, for many Judahites also had mixed with the cursed seed of the Canaanites. All right. So Nimrod didn't just say, okay, I'm good. All right. Think about that. Nimrod, he was fine. Okay. He's part Anunnaki. He got some Mesopotamia genetics going on. All right. He's back in Africa. All right. Speaking the language of his African ancestors. Or he said, let me go back to Mesopotamia because this could help my other brothers and sisters, like Harriet Tubman. It wasn't like, okay, I'm free. She was like, I want to go free some of my brothers and sisters too. All right. So now you have Baba saying, I came to the lost tribe of Judah because many have mixed in with the Canaanites. All right. That's our shuk. That's why it's called the redemption. All right. Many of us sit here with fur, green eyes, lots of evidence, flat hills. You don't have that hill anymore. Long torsos, or whatever the case is. All right. So only one of the tribes remained pure or whole, unmixed Judah. All right. Now Baba further explains more about this, because this is one of our earlier Paa Taraq. Baba explains more because sometimes it can be confusing. Sometimes he's calling Caucasians, Judahites. Sometimes he's calling us. All right. He explains more later on. But let's just read this. 100. This one, Yeshua, Isa, Jesus, was born April 17, 6 BC and died at the age of 120 in the year 114 AD. Was of the tribe of Judah and a hybrid, or a brid for short. His parentage consisted of three beings, being Joseph, his father, an angelic being called Gabriel, and Mary, his mother, who herself was a special prepared being. Mary's mother, Anna, was specially prepared to give birth to Mary, who was specially prepared to give birth to Yeshua, Jesus. All right. So there was things being done to Mary's bloodline going back because, for example, if you ever have a chance, you could watch a documentary called Plastic Planet. And it's a documentary of why plastics are so bad and what it does to the DNA. And it's really bad, they were saying, for women, for example, because, for example, me, I was born with all my eggs. All right. As a little baby, I had all my eggs. They just mature. All right. So that egg is as old as me. All right. And then it matures. So, for example, a male sperm, how long does it take for a sperm? I think it's 7 to 14 days. All right. Maybe 14 days. I can always be corrected, but less than a month. So a sperm, the man's body creates it. All right. And then conception happens. So if we want to go at how old are you according to your sperm, we could just add in an extra month. Let's be what's that called? You can be generous and we'll add in an extra month. So let's just say it takes 10 months, 9 months. So you're 10 months old extra before you're even born, if you're going by how old you are by your sperm. All right. Because the sperm didn't exist. That sperm didn't exist until a month before. But for the mom, if you go by, I'm going to go by how old I am according to my mom. I'm going to have to add her age on to me being born. All right. Because the egg already is in her. All right. She's born with all the eggs she'll ever have. The men, they're not born with any sperm. You create sperm during puberty, and then you keep creating it for the rest of your life. I don't create my eggs. I was born with them. So, when you watch Plastic Planet, they were showing the impact that this effect will have on the up to like 3 to 4 generations, the grandchildren, especially girls, because you can affect a man's sperm, but maybe he could clean himself out and create whole new sperm. For the woman, you affect those eggs, you can't just say, okay, we're going to start over. You're going to have everything still encoded on those eggs. That's why we call the women the record keepers. So everything that the mother was through, all right, what is encoded in that egg by the time that egg is mature enough to be given birth. So now you see that they were working on Jesus through his mother, all right, because they understand genetics, how it works. So whatever feature that they wanted, but they need a certain, they need the woman to be a certain way to be able to accommodate a being like that, all right? And then for her, you can't just start on her. You have to even start on her mother, all right? So you have to go back because she's as old, in totality as her mother, all right? So that's what they do. So Mary's mother, Anna, was specially prepared to give birth to Mary, all right, who was specially prepared to give birth to Yeshua. 103. Yeshua, Jesus, had 3 parents because the angel Gabriel came to Joseph first, and he went in unto Mary. A Y chromosome was needed as Yeshua was a male child. That's why Joseph was needed. And Joseph was from the tribe of Judah, not Mary. And she was from the Levite tribe. Thus, Jesus has more DNA than most because of his tribe parentage as a brid or a hybrid. Being Gabriel was a son of God, quote unquote, Bible puts God, or extraterrestrial. All right. So I was learning about that. I went to go see in this museum about how they plan to, because they're trying to resurrect the woolly mammoth as we speak, because the woolly mammoth is extinct. So the closest thing that they have to the woolly mammoth right now is an elephant. All right. They're going to use CRISPR technology, spelled CRISPER, CRISPR technology. And so they take the female woolly mammoth, they're preparing the DNA using the mitochondria DNA. And then they take the woolly mammoth DNA so they can inject it somehow. But they want a male specifically so then they can take another male elephant. All right. So you can have 3-part births even right now. But let's just say if they just want to give birth to if Jesus was a female, they could have possibly just used 2 parents, but they wanted specifically a male. So like the woolly mammoth, more than likely, if they're successful, they're probably not going to use the 3 parts. So more than likely, the first woolly mammoth that's resurrected is going to be a female. You already know just because of the way genetics work. Because they're going to take the female elephant because of her mitochondrial DNA. They're going to implant new DNA into her DNA, into her embryo. And it's going to be female that she gives birth to. All right. More than likely, that's why Dolly, right? The first time they cloned, it's always mostly it's always a female. All right. And the reason is because they do a lot of work on the mitochondrial DNA. Men have it too, but men can't pass it. So male animals in most species don't pass the mitochondrial DNA. So if you want to graft something, you always have to go through the female of any species. When you're trying to pull another being, another hybrid being, you need the mitochondria. All right. So that's how it works. All right. So if you ever had time, you could go to a museum and go to a science museum and then go study how they bring other species through. All right. And why it's always a female. They have to prepare the female animal. All right. That's why the extraterrestrials, and that's another scroll. It sounded real harsh the way Baba said it, but I like the way he said it too. He was like, the Caucasian female is welcome into our tribe. All right. Not recommended, but it's just through the science of it. You know, it's welcome, but the Caucasian man isn't, because the same way that the extraterrestrials have no use for them, neither do we. All right. Now you see why. All right. Because you're dealing with individual when you deal with a man. You're dealing with a whole creation when you're dealing with a female. All right. So you can alter a whole creation by dealing with one female. All right. For the better or worse. All right. So for whatever program, you need to program it in the female first. All right. So they had to program Mary to have any type of, and then from Mary, the program came through. That's why Baba said that it was his mother's womb that opened the gateway for him and what she was going through. All right. He responded to what she was going through. And that's how he came into existence. All right. So her genetics brought him through. But now you see why. Okay. So 104. This Jesus had more DNA than most because of his tribe parentage of a Brit. Being Gabriel was a son of God. This also occurred in Egypt with the birth of Harar or Horus and Ashtat or Arashtat or Aset or Isis and Asar, also known as Osiris, all right, and involved Manan or Min from the male seed or the father, Ashtat, the mother, and Asar, the spirit, all right, the male, the mother, and the spirit, and the three parents again, the Son of God and the Son of Man. All right. So now if you go by the story of Sar, he was cut up into 14 pieces. Remember, she found all the body parts except for the penis. All right. She was able to put them back together. Now there's some symbolism, but then there's also talking about piecing together the DNA. All right. But she can still take some features of that DNA because she's like, I really wanted a Sar's child. But she was like, I could use your manhood, men, if you could help me out, because I want a Sar's child. And that's why Harar is also depicted as a male. All right. Rahubat Imana.
Yeah, Rahuba. We know that it's not mythology about ancient Egyptian. We know that Asa and Alset Isis. This is true story to happen in Egypt, ancient Egypt. But the story for Jesus and Mary and Joseph and Gabriel, this is story or is it fact or is it just a story for Bible?
Okay, that's a
Did
very
Jesus,
Mhm.
did Jesus exist really in reality or what happened? I'm confused.
Yes, that's a very good question. So the reality is that different beings use this different sciences for different purposes. So the same sciences that we did, because you see that the Draconians, they did many of the things that we already did, all right, but for their own purpose, all right. So now when it comes to actual Jesus, there's no proof that there's any Jesus, a person named Jesus that existed. But there are different beings that you can find, like there's no specific, because this is how they hide the roots of what they don't like, all right. They take events that actually happened, all right, but they might change the date, or they can change the location, they could change the name, or they can actually graft different stories together and create this new fictional being, you know. So when it had to this agenda, all right, of their, because they're creating their own program. So Jesus is part of a new program for whatever purpose, all right. So as far as new programs that came into be for different reasons, yes, there was, there was that type of being. So Gabrielle, and Bob explained who Gabrielle was. So Jib, let me see if I can remember, because we just read it in another book. Jabra or Jibril. So he was one of those tall ones. He was a Gabber. What do you call them? Gibberite, all right, or Gibberine. All right, those beings who come down, uh those tall beings, and sent by El. So this is Enlil's agenda. All right. And then you have Joseph, all right, Mary, all right. So was there actual Josephs that they found? No. But did they take certain beings that they were working on? Did they take their Adamite seed and have their own anointed ones for their own purposes? Yes, so to speak. All right. So
Okay.
I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, still I'm confused because I don't know really if these people they didn't exist, and I don't have to believe. Using this word to believe, I don't like to use this word,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't have to believe the Bible, the Quran, and all these books because we know that they have been written by these people.
Right.
So if I don't have any fact from Baba Yanun, I don't have to believe in nothing from these people. Till today, I see people they are saying according to the Bible say
Yeah.
all this I don't understand. I'm confused when people they are telling me not to trust, not to believe in the Bible. In the same time, they are telling me the Bible says also which Bible were they are talking
Oh, I
about?
see. Okay. So the thing is that we're clarifying the stories. So the story, it really existed in some shape or form. So Bob is
Mm-hmm.
clarifying who is who in the story and what is actually being happening in the story. But it doesn't mean, like, for example, I can tell you, this is a good example. All right. So I can write a fictitious book. All right.
Yes.
But it has a lot of facts in it because any fictitious book, they have to take elements of things that actually happened, or else the story wouldn't make sense. All right. So, for example, I might talk about a woman named uh, Lisa. All right. And I talk about Lisa, but instead of like calling her Lisa, I'm going to call her Michelle. And instead of this story happening in 1920, all right, um, I'm going to place it in another time period. All right. But what Bob is giving you is the facts behind the stories of what actually happened and who these characters, what's happening with the characters and the relationships between these beings. So, for example, if you're, most people, they know the story of Jesus, they know the Bible. So if you could describe the science between those relationships of those people by what the person already has a reference on, so they can go refer to it. And then you can go get the facts behind, well, uh, who are these real stories about? Because was there a person named Jesus? It's impossible because at that time, Jay is kind of younger than that story, for example,
Yeah.
that they place it in. All right. But if you know the science and the relationships and the seats that these people are sitting on, you could explain the story, even if you're doing it by the fictional characters. You're still
Oh,
describing what's going on with the elements of that story, if that makes sense.
yes. Now I understand.
Yes, and you have to speak in a language. Like, for example, English is terrible. It's a terrible language to speak. But I can't just, first off, I don't speak Miss Batia, if I'm to be honest. So I have to start where I am, or else I'm just going to short circuit my brain and I won't be able to understand anything. So we could
Yeah.
speak the language of what we could all, like, we all know Jesus' story. We all know Mary didn't have a father. It was some angel. We know that
Yeah.
there was so a story like that really happened. And this is, but if I give you all those names and tell you where it really happened and how many times it happened, because then there would be many Jesuses, because there's
Yeah.
a lot of these what is it called, a lot of beings were coming here doing different things. All right. And it wasn't just the Anunnaki. This is just the Anunnaki story. So there's going to be another Jesus and another graftation and hybrid somewhere else. And then you see
Yeah.
we did it too. So
Yes.
so if that makes sense, why we're explaining away the Bible stories and we're getting the
Re-
science behind them. And then we could find out, well, where did these actually happen? And as you can see, well, it's still happening, right?
Yes. Now I understand.
Okay. So let's read this again. So 103, Yahshua or Jesus had three parents because the angel Gabriel came to Joseph first, and he went in unto Mary. A Y chromosome was needed. All right. So Gabriel over here is explaining, well, this dynamic is being explained as Gabriel did something to Joseph too. So he did something to his genetics. So now Joseph can be going to impregnate Mary. All right, because there's many ways. So if it helps if you can go to a science museum, you see there's many ways that you can make hybrids. All right, you can affect the Y chromosome. You could do something to the Y chromosome and then send it. And you have to do something to the female chromosome, and then you put them together. So you can do something to that male's chromosome, add something to it, then he goes and impregnates. So now you have a 3-parent birth that way too. All right. So thus this Jesus had more DNA than most because of his tri-parentage, and a Brit, being that Gabriel was a son of God or extraterrestrial. This also occurred in ancient Egypt with the birth of Harar or Horus and Ashastat or Rastat, Asat, Isis, all right, whatever tone, all right, you know the deceit or the story, all right, and Asar or Usar or Osiris, and involve Manan or the men for the male seed or the father, and Ashtas the mother, and Asar the spirit, and the 3 parents again, the Son of God and the Son of Man. Today, there are cases where people have more than one type of DNA, and it has caused controversy. Here's a story, like the case of a woman from London who was applying for public assistance, and after taking a DNA test, the result concluded that she was not the mother of her own children, although she actually was their biological and birth mother. Her DNA did not match the children's DNA because she had 2 sets of DNA. It's something chromia. All right, I forgot what it's called. Something chromia, that condition is called. And sometimes people don't know they have it. But that happened to another woman. I was watching a news report. And then it can also happen to men because a man can have that too. So now you go to take a DNA test, all right, for this child, and it says you're not the father, all right, because that DNA is what's registering. So you'll need, for in these cases, you have to take a specialized type of DNA test because you actually carry 2 sets of DNA, all right. And there are people on this planet, women and men, that's walking around with 2 sets of DNA. All right. So now the question should be, where did this other DNA come from? Yeshua, Jesus, was unique. A unique being because he had 3 parents. And if the type of technology existed to take DNA back then, this fact would have been revealed. All right. So yeah, chimera, that's what it's called. Baabaa says it here. All right. So they didn't have DNA testing in the story of Jesus's time. All right. So this woman is pregnant, and now you have all types of things that can dispel the facts in our current time. All right. So this occurrence is called chimera. That's the presence of more than one DNA in a being, human or animal. All right. So, like for example, cats, where you see they have the half face, those that would be considered a chimera type of cat. It's carrying at least 3 sets of DNA. All right. So he said, he said, oh yes, Linky, I see that you're unmuted. Rahabat Zamaltat.
Rahobat. I just wanted to hear about Imana. There's a video on OSM Vision that Second did. It's called Secrets of Jesus, Wife, Children, Life, and Death Revealed. So maybe if he watches that, he can get more clarity on what he was inquiring about.
That's great.
Thank you. Thank you, Linky. Thank you.
If you
I will
don't
check.
mind, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. Linky, if you don't mind, Zamatat, you can also share his video in the group because it's open right now. Because I opened it during the chat. So if you want to share the link so that others can see that OSM video, that'd be fine. I not and appreciate it.
Tua.
All right. So so this occurrence is called chimera, the presence of more than one DNA in a being, human or animal. All right. So if ever a man, all right, if you ever, that's the benefit of being a woman, because no matter what the DNA says, you know, there's no woman on this planet. Well, I shouldn't say no woman, but there's women know who their child is. Nature leaves it to a way that there's no confusion. All right. So whether there's chimera going on, because if she goes to take a genetic test, there's no reason for her to take a genetic test for her own children, unless, for example, there was something that she needed to do. So what happened was that the reason why the mom took a genetic test in the news report that I saw, was because I think she might have needed something for the baby. Maybe she was trying to see if there was a match or some type of, the baby may have had some type of issue. So they was like, we got to take your DNA and see if you could match the baby or something like that. And it was like, they called CPS and said, this woman is not even the mother's child. And she was like, yes, I am the child's mother. And it was a whole big thing. And she was like, she had to put all the records, like, I have the stretch marks to prove it. I have this and I have that. And then it became a big joke, because then they found out that they have special DNA testing so they can test the genetics even deeper. And then they found the presence of 2 DNAs. And they was like, oh, that's what happened. So for a man, though, the question is always there, because you always have to take the woman's word for it, because unless you want to just keep her trapped in the roof, you never really know. That's why they say that the woman knows. All right. That's where the power is. That's why that's why traditionally we go through the mothers, not the fathers, for our claim. All right. It's mixed up and backwards the way we do it today. But you had to believe, or you look on as a man. All right. And then let's just say you're not sure. So you say, I'm not sure about this child. Let's go get a genetic test. And now it says you're not the father, and she's so convinced and she's crying like, I swear I haven't been with anybody. You see that it is possible. So you may want to, if you have the money, you can afford to get specialized DNA testing. All right. So there might be a lot of people that may have walked away from their biological children based on the way genetics work without knowing. But nature doesn't let the woman not know. It just tells you whose jurisdiction nature placed existence in, which is woman. All right. So 112, he said, I came to my own, yet my own people like me were barred here, like lamb's wool, yet they refused to listen to him. He could not raise the 144,000 to be saved from the beast, from being on the menu, from the blood-lusting overlords of the Adamites. Yet there was another anointed Messiah called the anointed cherub, the man of sin. In Ezekiel chapter 28, verses 14, thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of God. Okay, so you were on the holy mountain of God. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of the fire. This arch deceiver purpose is to keep you bound here and worshiping his image, and ignorance as to who you are and your purpose. To return to you are the sense of nawaf, pride, as we as a nawaf or a nawuf, proud people. All right. So now you know that Baabaa, because Baabaa explains in another scroll that he's also the result of a 3-parent birth too. All right. And he was specially formulated for his job. But now you know that he's not the only one. All right. Because you know that there's other beings, maybe more than one. that is also formulated for their they have their anointed one, their Messiah. All right. And his job or her job is to keep you ignorant and spellbound here and trapped so you can stay on the menu. His job, as far as Baaba's job is to get you off the menu. All right. So now you know that there's different messiahs, there's different Malachites or Malachis, right? Malachi mean those who come down, all right, for the purpose to teach, all right? A program for what? Could be good, all right? Could be bad, all right? So now you see the different seats that good beings could sit in relation to their job and their people versus bad beings who could sit in, all right, to their relationship and their job to their people, all right, or to get other people, all right. So it is time again to rise like the phoenix, renewed from its ashes. I, Paa Yaanun, the master teacher Yanun, as your mujdad renewer of your story, have come to prepare you in order for you to make a transformation back to the samam or saman divine. All right. So make your way back in your transformation back. And also know that there are beings that has incarnated as well to make sure you don't make your transformation. All right. So both things are happening. All right. So this says, Paa Yaanun Kawun Yatoy Tarakum. That means the master teacher is coming your way. Ashuk. All right. So that concludes our scroll. All right. It's a lot going on in the scroll. So anybody can feel free to unmute about anything in the scroll or anything it makes them think about. All right. So it's a lot to take in, a lot to consider. All right. And you see the different beings that's sitting in their various seats. All right. So now you know that Messiah is not necessarily, and it just means anointed. All right. Anointed with what? All right. Anointed to do what? All right. So now you don't look at just words as this is good or this is just all bad. We're dispelling the spookism. All right. So if I say leader, that doesn't mean a good or a bad thing, because I could be leading you to nowhere. All right. So now you have that relationship. So now you start to learn how to, and we start to learn how to ask specific questions. All right. To do what? Where? How? When? Why? You know? And now we get to specify, all right, because you don't want to end up somewhere that you weren't supposed to be, all right, and in someone else's story or agenda. So I think that's a great place for us to end. Our next scroll that we're going to be reading together on Sunday and Monday is going to be the guidance scroll, which I'm really looking forward to, which is going to go great with this theme of scrolls that we've been on lately, because they all are helping to explain each other in a nice, concise way. So this will be the next scroll that's going to go even deeper into many of these stories and how, you know, various beings and what seats and three-parent births and all that. All right. So with that being stated, Tawakum for coming together, my son, spending time in this platform and reading the scroll together. And I appreciate everyone who's taken the time to untangle themselves and explain the confusion away for yourself and empower yourself and just continue to be the best version of yourselves that you can be. So I appreciate everybody that's doing that work together and in your own individual lives. And I appreciate, because I benefit from it as well, because we all are intertwined in each other in some shape or form. So I appreciate you doing your part. And with that being said, I shook and Wadu.
Wadu.
Ashuk, Wadu.
Wadu.